board members, I'd like to begin tonight's meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And once again, good evening. I'd like to introduce the city staff who's here with us this evening. The board liaison, Mohammed Malik, the zoning administrator, the assistant city attorney, Mr. Dwayne Spence, the zoning chief, Bert Ford, the administrative assistant, Nadia Martins, recording secretary, Bridget Giappetta. For the members that I see here with us this evening, board members, to my left, Blaze McGinley. On my right, Chadwick Maxey. And representing from other locations, we have Eugene Ellis, Douglas Reynolds, Shirley Eichner, Chip Falkinger, Mike Lambrix, and I think I got everybody.
Carrie Vilna.
Oh, Carrie's here too. Good. Hello, Carrie. I didn't see him.
Hello.
Very good. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting, from the November meeting. Were there any corrections or do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Blaze and a second from Chadwick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. The minutes move forward. You have something? From where this whole thing? Okay. The city of Fort Lauderdale is hosting the Board of Adjustment meeting in both a virtual and an in-person format. Any member of the public that is interested in speaking before the Board of Adjustment virtually is required to complete a virtual speaker card. Any member of the public that is interested in speaking before the Board of Adjustment in person may sign up to speak at the meeting or by using the virtual speaker card. Due to COVID-19 distance requirements, there is a very limited seating availability. Therefore, we are encouraging members of the public to participate virtually when possible. The public will be able to listen and to view Board of Adjustment meetings at www.fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV or on youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. To speak on the agenda item, please click on the link below. To participate in the meeting, you can fill out the virtual meeting form on the city's website under Board of Adjustment page. Individuals wish to speak will be heard prior to the close of the public comment period. If you have trouble signing up, please email Bert Ford at bford@fortlauderdale.gov. Any caller that is unidentified will not be provided with access to the meeting. So please provide your name and address. If you would like to share a document, please upload the document when submitted a request to speak. Participants, please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking and silence your devices so we do not have interference. Also, for members of the public wishing to speak, individuals get 3 minutes and members of associations and groups get 5 minutes. Is that all for the requirements? Okay. So move on to item number 1, which is case number PNL-BOA-2003003. We'll do disclosures while
Well, on this item, it's not necessary to do a disclosure. This is a request for rehearing.
okay.
If the board grants the rehearing, the staff will schedule it and notice it for a subsequent meeting.
Okay, because so phone calls from people, none of that matters in this instance.
No, this is not a quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay, very good. So we will not do disclosures. Is the representative for the applicant ready to speak?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. This is Stephanie Toothaker. Stephanie Mayorga is with me this evening. I just have a quick couple of slides. Thank you for the opportunity to represent Daphne and Gerard Diaffe. They did present to a prior at a prior Board of Adjustment hearing and were not successful, and they petitioned the board for a motion for rehearing. In the December meeting, I've filed as their representative, but I was not able to attend, and the board was kind enough to defer to this evening. I'm sorry, the November meeting, kind enough to defer to this evening. We are here just not to talk about the merits of the case in any way, but to request a motion for rehearing. I did go back and review the minutes from the, Stephanie, go to the next slide, please. I did go, and the next one as well. I went back and reviewed the hearing. They were last on the agenda. They were having severe technical difficulties, and I don't believe that the board really had the opportunity to hear a full presentation from the applicants. And one of the criteria for allowing a motion for rehearing is to consider new evidence or information, which I don't believe was actually presented at that board meeting. So we, again, we're not here to discuss the merits of the case this evening. We're just asking you to give us the opportunity for a fair hearing with good internet connection, or possibly even by January, perhaps we could all come in person. I see many of you are there in person, and I look forward to the opportunity to being able to do that. We do believe that we can present a good, strong case for variance, and I would just very much appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Members of the board, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Make a motion that we approve the request for rehearing.
Second.
Bridget?
On the discussion front, I guess I would just say, she's just asking for a chance to make the case. So I think that that's a fair request. So that's it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Should we call the vote? There's no public input on this, right, D-Wayne?
The public should be provided an opportunity to speak on any action that you take.
Okay.
So even though it's right, so
So
open it up for the public. And
before I call the vote then, is there any members of the public that wish to speak on this? I see none. So we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a vote.
Mr. Chair, this is Bridget.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. We are missing one of our members, so we would need one of the alternates to sit in. Can you tell me which one it's going to be?
Who's missing?
Mr. Nelson,
Okay.
Chair Nelson,
Okay, and then the two alternates are Mr. Falkinger and Ms. Eichner?
and Lembricks. We've got 3 alternates.
Oh, they're all alternates. Okay. On this one, we'll call Ms. Eichner.
Ms. Eichner, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
You're going to be the alternate on this item.
actually, perhaps on all of them? Wouldn't she sit in for the night?
Well, you're going to need, just to pipe up real quick, you're going to need an additional alternate for the next one, because I'm recusing myself on item 2.
Right, okay. Okay. Mr. Chair, may I call the roll?
You may.
Okay. Ms. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Villeneuve,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Maxey,
yes,
Ms. Eichner,
Yes.
Chair McTeague.
Yes.
And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I very much appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to case number 2. Item is PNL-BOA-200900005. Applicant is Lennar Homes. Disclosures. Mr. McGinley?
I spoke with counsel last time before the case was deferred, and I've done a site visit.
Okay, Ms. Ellis?
Site visit.
Mr. Villanueva?
My disclosure is that I'm recusing myself, so I'll turn my video and microphone off, and I'll just monitor the meeting until this one's over. Then I'll rejoin.
Okay.
A moment, board member, could you state for the record the reason for disclosure? If it's a conflict of interest, state that, or if it's just to.
I'll stay. I mean, I don't think there's any real conflict of interest, but I know that my law firm does represent Lennar Homes in certain matters.
Okay.
So I'm going to recuse myself so that there's no even hint of anything.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Reynolds,
None.
Mr. Maxey,
None.
Ms. Eichner,
None.
and I have none. I believe because Mr. Villanueva is going to step down, we need another alternate. I would call Mr. Lambricks.
And none for me.
And you have no disclosure, sir?
No disclosures.
Okay, very good. All right, we're ready for the applicant. For item number 2.
I have a copy of the original submittal that they made last time. So
Okay.
if anybody needed to see it, I've got a fresh, I've got a copy of it.
Thank you.
Excuse me again, I'm wondering if anyone needs to be sworn in.
Can I take this? Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dennis Mealy, 200 East Broward Boulevard, on behalf of the applicant. Also here with me tonight is my associate, Dina Gray. So I'm just going to do a very small portion of this, and then Dina will come from there if that's okay.
Okay, have you been sworn in?
Yeah. I think there are a couple of people online. Just make sure they get sworn into. Bridget, I see Anne. Anne, are you there? I know I just saw you on the screen a minute ago. So please get sworn in before you speak. And thank you. Whoever is for this case.
Okay. Do I need to swear in the,
Yes.
okay,
The attorney.
okay.
Yep.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you. Again, Dennis Mealy, 200 East Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, on behalf of the applicant, Lennar Homes. This is the type of situation I think you've seen before. When we received our permits from Broward County and the South Florida Water Management District for our stormwater retention, our surface water management, we of course have to comply with the new floodplain requirements and the new finished floor elevations from FEMA and the county. So that results in us having to raise the elevation of this property approximately 3 feet higher than the properties around us. So as we've been building, our neighbors and our clients have been in very close contact. There's a lot of trees that we had to make sure we save. We worked the retaining walls around those trees and everything. So then when we got ready to put up our fence, the neighbors saw that our fence was only going to be a 3-foot fence on top of a 3-foot retaining wall. And at that point, they said to us, can't you make it higher? Because from our side, your new residents will be able to see into our backyards. So at that point, we said, fine, we'll file an application for a variance, which is what brings us here today. If I could, I'd like to introduce my associate, Dina Gray, who has worked on this more than I have. I'm more on the water retention side. She's more on the fence side, if that's appropriate. So I'll step out of the way now. Thank you very much.
Very good. And for the record, Ms. Gray was sworn in.
Good evening, Dina Gray, on behalf of the applicant. And can you hear me? Okay, let me see if I can PowerPoint up. Do I double click? There we go. Is it F5 to open it?
F5 and use the earpiece.
All right, thanks. By the time I get all the technology understood, it'll be time to go back, right? So this is, as Dennis said, this is for Lennar Riverside, the edge on 20th, and we are requesting a fence height variance. The subject property, this is located east of 95, and that is Southwest 20th Avenue. And to the east of the property is Hammock Oaks, and then Broward Boulevard is to the north. and Southwest Fifth Place is to the south. And this next slide just gives you a better aerial view of the subject property. Of course, this is not showing any of the construction. This photo from the property appraiser's page was prior to that. Now, one thing that Dennis was discussing was the retaining wall. And the thick black line shows the retaining wall that was required for to keep the discharge for the drainage discharge on site in order to comply with the drainage permit regulations and code regulations that does not permit for runoff on site, off site. You have to keep everything on site. And that is why I'll show you a picture here. So this is the retaining wall. And as you can see, the fence is just behind it, kind of on it, behind it. So the green grass there, that is the adjacent property owners. And on the dirt side, that is the Lennar project property. So if you're standing on the dirt side and you had a tape measure, that wood fence is 6 feet tall and it would measure 6 feet tall. But if you were to walk around and go on the adjacent property owner's property and took a tape measure, it would be, if you measured from the base of the retaining wall, which I'll show you a little bit later, the fence, because of the varying elevations, it ranges from approximately 7 feet, and at the highest point, it's 9 feet 8 inches. So here's a cross-section view. And it's showing, we could see the difference in the elevation where the man is standing, that is on the applicant's property on the Lennar side. And it's a standard like 6 foot figure. And the yellow highlighted is the fence if we were to apply the literal interpretation of the code. So the code allows a fence to be 6 feet 6 inches. But if you were to measure from the base of the retaining wall, we would have to literally cut the fence in half horizontally. So these are the fence details. This next slide shows, I took this detail off of the site plan. The project was approved back in March of 2018. So this is the 6 foot wood fence detail. It shows the elevation and the grade. And the next slide, this shows the 5 foot aluminum fence. So and I'll show you another slide where these are located. The wood fence runs along the perimeter. The purple lines here, that's the wood fence that runs along. You have oak hammock that is to the east, so the right-hand side. And then the yellow lines are the decorative aluminum fencing. So that's like your entryway and along the Southwest 20th street elevation. Along Southwest 5th Place, you don't see a line there because there isn't a retaining wall, but that also has the decorative aluminum fence for the entryway. So the fence is 6 feet, the wood fence, and the aluminum fence is 5 feet. The code allows a maximum of 6 feet 6 inches. So why do we need the variance? So that was my question, because to understand what the issue was. And in speaking with staff, they kindly guided me to code section 47-2.2.G.2, which are how you measure the fence. And I won't read you the whole paragraph, but when you're measuring it, it says, if a retaining wall elevates the non-habitable accessory structure, grade shall be the finished ground surface at the base of the retaining wall. So if you interpret that literally, that means, I can go back to this picture. If you're standing on the grass on the adjacent property owner's property, that fence would be anywhere from 7 feet to 9 feet 8 inches, as opposed to the interior side, the applicant side of the fence, where it would meet code if you were measuring it from where you're standing on the dirt. So the net increase that we're asking for is, for the variance is 3 feet 2 inches. So again, I'm showing this line of sight diagram because, what is the purpose of a fence per the ULDR? The ULDR in section 4719.5, it says the purpose and intent for the regulations in this section is to promote safety, create buffers, ease the transition between public ways and private property, and promote aesthetics while allowing flexibility and variety in the design of the fence or wall. So going back to this line of sight, if we were to apply the literal interpretation, it would be a 3-foot high wall, which would really give you visual intrusion from the applicant's side. The applicant side of the property would be able to look straight in all the windows, look down right into all of their patio areas, into their backyard. So it's a visual intrusion. It's also a safety concern, safety from intruders. A 3-foot wall you could step over. If it's a 6-foot wall, that makes it a lot more difficult for an intruder to get over. And also a 3-foot wall, you could have kids that could easily get over that, or even sit on a 3-foot wall. So it creates a safety concern. Now we have had discussions with the neighbors, because now along the east property line where Oak Hammock is, that is where the highest point of the fence elevation is located. And in speaking with them, and as Dennis mentioned, the residents were upset if if we were to have to cut this fence in half and only have a 3-foot fence. Because from a practical standpoint, it doesn't make sense. The code says what it says, but in this circumstance, it's just not practical. So this letter of support from Beth Arnold, and she is in support. She and her husband were on the Zoom call last month, but we had deferred. She apologized, but she and her husband are on vacation, so they're not able to be on tonight. We have another letter of support from another property owner. And I highlighted this section where she had mentioned that they had already experienced an intruder on the property. So they have serious concerns about safety. And this is another letter of support from Jessica Rodriguez. Her and her husband is on the board of the HOA, and they're also in support of the variance. And I highlighted this section where, they feel that, it would be an undue hardship to them if the variance wasn't approved, as, it would not give them security and safety, and it's actually in opposition to the purpose of the code in creating safety and for the public welfare. I could go through all of the variance criteria if you'd like me to, or no, okay. And I'm here with Dennis if you have any questions.
Any members of the board have any questions for the applicant at this time?
No.
I don't see or hear anybody with questions. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this?
Board, I do believe we have one person virtually
Okay.
who wants to speak.
Is there a person virtually who would like to speak on this item? I believe I see a hand raised, maybe from Ms. Eichner.
Yeah, I have a question.
This is Ann Wiley. Can you hear me?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Make sure she's been sworn.
Ms. Eichner, if I can have you wait, we'll let.
Okay, that's no problem. I'll wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, you go first. It's okay.
I'm just
Ms.
wondering.
Wiley, I'm going to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you can hear me. I've been punching a lot of buttons, so I'm glad it worked. Thank you, board. I appreciate being able to speak to you tonight. My name is Ann Wiley. I live at 1600 Southwest 5th Street in Riverside Park. I have lived here since 1996, so quite a while. I am also on the board, and tonight I represent a unanimous opinion of the board for Riverside Park Resident Association. The board members of Riverside Park Resident Association are unanimously opposed to Lennar's request for a height variance on the perimeter wall. Our board's concern pertains only to the west and south sides of the Lennar compound regarding the 9-foot 8-inch wall or fence they were requesting a variance for. The east and the north sides of the Lennar compound, as we have heard quite extensively about other apartment complexes, including Okamix. And these issues should be between those two parties. And for whatever it's worth, both those fences are already completed. So I don't know if tonight Lennar is asking for permission for those fences to be built, but they are already completed. The fence between Okamix and the Lennar compound, which is on the east side and the north side. So we're not, the board is not talking about those two sides. We're talking about the west side and the south side. Our board feels that erecting an almost 10-foot high wall or fence on the west and south sides facing our neighborhood and the street and our neighborhood school would feel unnatural, unfairly imposing, and segregating to the rest of our neighborhood. We feel that Lennar should try to be part of the neighborhood they chose to build in, rather than trying to block it out. We do not want to set a precedent that a 10-foot high wall or blocking structure around any building in our neighborhood is acceptable or safe. We believe it is only fair that a development accept the neighborhood they choose to be a part of. A 3-foot high fence on top of a 3-foot retaining wall would be a 6-foot fence wall as far as the surrounding neighbors are concerned. If Lennar is unsatisfied with this degree of separation, we suggest they spend the appropriate amount of money for native plants to create a visual barrier they think is necessary to achieve this separation. And again, we do not oppose any voluntary written agreements between Lennar and Okamix to the east or Community Acres to the north if they wish for privacy. And frankly, I don't blame Okamix at all for wanting a fence, because for the last 15 years, they have looked into a deep, rich, beautiful, vast, old growth forest, which Lennar completely clear cut. And now they look straight into the back of another apartment. So that fencing, I certainly understand. But to build a 10-foot wall facing Stranahan High School and to build a 10-foot wall facing our neighbors to the west, which would be right along the sidewalk. So you'd be walking along the sidewalk and up from that would go a 10-foot wall. We don't want that precedent in our neighborhood. We feel Lennar is trying to block out the neighbors to the south and the west with a 10-foot wall. I mean, think of a 10-foot wall. That's almost prison-like. So our neighborhood association is opposed to the height variance for the wall or the fence on the west and the south side.
Okay, any members of the board that have questions or would like to speak to the member of the public?
I think Shelley was first.
I beg your pardon?
Shelley was first.
Okay, Ms. Eigner.
Thanks, Eugenia. Dina, I have a question for you. In your presentation, has the entire property, the Riverside property, been elevated by 3 feet? Or is it just the retaining wall?
Well, the elevation of the property, like where the retaining wall, here, let me see if I can pull it back up. Easier to describe.
Dina, let me help with this.
You want
Uh, This is Dennis Mealy. Could I respond to the question? Yeah, all of the elevations in the property have been raised as a result of the surface water management permit. The finished floor elevations, the roadways, the ground, and of course, the retaining wall is what holds that all in. If you look at the cross section, what you'll see is at the perimeter, you have the retaining wall. And then once you get inside of that, it drops down a little bit for the landscaped areas. Then it goes up a little bit for the roadways and the driveways, and then up a little bit even more than that for the finished floor elevations. So basically, all of the elevations on the site had to be raised to comply with the surface water management permit.
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand then is under section 47-2.2 G of the code, that talks about that the grade, when you have those retaining walls, that the base is measured, the grade is measured from the base of the wall.
Right.
So Dean, if I understood you properly, what you said was if you're standing within the Riverside project, the wall, the walls, the fences that you're requesting would be 6 feet in height
Right.
and meet code. It's if you're standing outside the property on the lower elevation of the roads in the surrounding neighborhood, it's then you would need the variance. But if you're standing within the property, you would meet that code section of 47-2.2 G, correct?
Correct. It varies, the elevation varies from 4.1, I believe, to 5.72 feet. Oh, if you can hear me a little bit better.
Okay.
So it varies along the property lines.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand though is if you're measuring the height of the fence from within your property, you meet the code.
Yes, that's correct.
But if you're standing outside the property in the neighborhood, because their elevation, their base elevation is varying from 2 to 3 feet less than what you are, you don't meet the code.
In most sections of the code, I'm trying to pull up another slide to explain. I think I need some help here.
Yeah. If I could,
I believe the code though does read that the measurement comes from the ground level, basically, right? From
Outside the retaining.
the outside the fence, not from the inside.
Well-
Yes, if it was inside, the fence is 6 feet high, but the code says that you take the measurement from the outside or the adjacent grade level, which.
The chair, I think the confusion is with the term meet the code.
Mhm.
So staff's interpretation is that it does not meet the code because the measurement of the fence is taken
From the
from
adjacent,
the base of the retaining wall, not the top of the retaining wall.
correct.
So,
But wait a minute. Oh, you're saying it's the base, okay.
so if a retaining wall, the relevant code section says if a retaining wall elevates the non-habitable accessory structure, grade shall be the finished ground surface at the base of the retaining wall. So based on that language, staff has determined that the measurement of the fence height has to be from the lower elevation. And therefore, it does not meet the code either way that you measure the fence.
Mr. Chair, although I think what I heard Ms. Eichner asking is if you're standing on the ground on the Lennar property, what you would see is a 6-foot wooden fence.
Right.
But if you were on the outside of the property, you'd see a 3-foot wall with a 6-foot fence on top of it. So let me say this, I heard the comments, and so I wasn't speaking about the code, just when you're standing there, what does it look like? On one side, it looks like 6 feet, on the other side, it looks like 9 feet. The member of the public who commented, I want to make it very clear. The only reason we applied for this variance is because the Oak Hammock neighbors asked us to. We would have just built it out with a 3-foot fence on top of the 3-foot retaining wall. But the neighbors said, that's not what we want. So
Right,
we said, okay, then we'll apply. And that's
right.
what we
Can I still be heard?
Dennis, could you go
Wait,
back?
wait.
Can you go back and show slide number 6, please?
Number 6? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. Is that the one?
Yeah, what I'm trying to, I understand, what Dwayne was talking as far as in the section 47-2 that talks about the grade is measured from the base of the wall, but again, if you're standing on the neighborhood side, the base is the top of the retaining wall. But if you're standing on the riverside side, the base, the bottom of that retaining wall is really below grade.
Right. If you look at this drawing, you see the yellow highlight, that's the fence on top of the wall. But as Ms. Eichner points out, if you look at the black line, but then you look on our side, there's a little white square underneath that. That's the part of the wall that's buried underground.
Which is below grade, so which would sound then that the base of the wall is, I think what we have is, are you standing from the inside or you're measuring from the outside?
Correct.
If you're on the inside,
Code is
the top of the retaining wall is really the base because the rest of it is below grade. I understand if you're standing on the neighborhood side, then of course it's all above grade and you have your extra 3 feet. So that seems to be.
I don't think there's any question. The base is from the outside of the retaining wall. Per code. Per code.
May I, am I still audible? Ann Wiley?
I'll allow you another moment.
Yes?
Go ahead. Yes. go ahead.
Yeah, I believe someone representing Lennar just said something about Okamics, and I just want to reiterate that we're totally fine with what Okamic and Lennar has decided. That's a private line. No member of the public sees that. It doesn't face a neighborhood. It's in between 2 condo complexes only. And I don't blame Okamic based on the view that they have lost. We're talking about the west side. The retaining wall comes straight up, almost straight up from the sidewalk. It's 3 feet tall. On top of that, they want to put a 6'6" fence. So you're walking along the sidewalk and there would be a 9 foot, I think they said the highest would be 9'8", so almost 10 foot. You would be walking along the sidewalk along 20th Avenue, which is where the yellow line is on the drawing there, the long yellow line. You would be walking along the sidewalk there, and on your east side would be a 10-foot high wall. Now, to me, that says to our neighborhood, we don't want you looking in here. We don't want to look at you. We want privacy and be separate. And we feel that Lennar should accept the neighborhood they moved into and not try and block it out. And I'm speaking really for the neighbors also across the street. I've spoken
Mr.
with
Chair?
many of them.
Yes.
I have a question for Ms. Wiley.
Okay. Ms. Ellis.
Ms. Wiley, you have jumped back and forth by saying you are representing the board. You're speaking for the board.
I
Did
am.
your membership meet and take a vote?
Yes, we did.
So you're speaking for the membership.
I'm speaking for our board of Riverside Park. And our board members took a vote, and this is a unanimous decision.
No, not your board members, your membership.
Oh, no, not the membership of the community.
So this is only the board's opinion.
The board's met, yes, our board.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to clarify who you're actually speaking for.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I understand that these other areas are also part of the neighborhood, and these letters of support came from members of your association. Is that correct?
No, I'm sorry if I'm not being clear. The letters of support, I agree with them. Every letter of support.
Not who they are is what I'm trying to get at. Are they members of that association?
No, they're not. No, they're not members of Riverside Park Resident Association. No.
Okay.
They are
but
not.
They reside within Riverside Park. Is that correct?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Thank you. That was
In
my question.
Okamic. Yeah. And we agree with them.
Ms. Wiley, so that I'm clear, the 2 sections that you're concerned about are the part that have the 3-foot elevation that face west and then looks like it faces south?
Yes,
Makes
it is.
almost an L? Is that the
Yes,
part?
sir. That's correct.
Okay.
The section that faces south faces a street, and then on the other side of the street is Stranahan High School. I'm not sure what message that would send to the kids at Stranahan that we're putting up a 10-foot wall north of you. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not, I don't believe the applicant's trying to do this at all to cut out the neighborhood or any of that. It's code now requires them to raise their property and to have these retention walls. And this is just a byproduct of that. And it's something I believe the city's reviewing because of the difficulties. This happens in commercial residential
Sure.
areas now.
Sure.
So again, this isn't anything they're trying to do it in any kind of mean way or whatever.
Sure.
So let me ask the applicant, is there an opportunity to reduce the fence on that area by 3 feet?
Actually, I'd like to give them the opportunity to clarify the plan because to be totally honest,
Yeah.
I think the representative from, or the person who was just speaking, I think she's misreading the plan. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the part
Sure.
that she was referring to is
Would you
actually
like
an
to
aluminum fence.
clarify the height in that area?
Could we put back up on your screen, the PowerPoint? Can we put it, how do I do that? Oh, okay, I don't see, oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I would like to clarify. So if you, I don't know, does a arrow or a pointer, is there an arrow or a pointer you could use? So if you look in on that, I guess it's a 7, you can say the smaller 7, which is the purple line. So the line that is wet, so north is up, and then so that is the south property line that she's speaking about, and then the west.
Right,
So
it's making the L,
It's
correct?
making the L, correct. So that line there, if you're standing in Riverside Park's parking lot, I stood there, and that fence would be 6 feet. So it's a wood fence that's there. Now, the fence that is on the south line there, that one would be the 6-foot fence on top of the 3-foot retaining wall. So then that would be in that area, 9 foot 8 inches.
So the eastern facing is at 6 feet right now. It is not elevated.
It's on the, if I'm getting the direction, is there a pointer?
He was just showing how
Oh.
to do it, but I didn't do it right.
Oh, okay, hold on, let me see if I can do it. Okay, so can you see it on the screen? Okay, so this here,
That whole-
when I was standing in their parking lot right here, you're looking at a 6-foot wood fence, like a shadow box fence.
There's no retaining wall in that area.
There is a retaining wall, but it's on the other side for the dry retention.
So it's not elevating the 6-foot fence. I'm just
Correct.
overstating it. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
that fence is at 6 feet. So it's just the
Correct.
part that's above that faces south, that is in and on top of the retaining wall,
Here.
creating a 9-foot and change elevation.
Yes, that's correct. This here, right here. This
Is
is,
that clear, mister?
So if I could add,
Yes.
so it sounds to me like that north-south leg that you were just pointing at, we don't need a variance there anymore. That we can live with the 6 feet. So then the only part in question with our neighbor is that part that runs east and west. I guess there's still a little cursor right there. That would be the part where it would be elevated, that would be adjacent to Riverside Park, that it sounds like they would object to. But the rest of it, it sounds like should be okay.
Correct. And I think the only part based on your last description that is in question is the part facing south.
Right, just that little link
piece
there.
that faces south.
Right, and if the desire there was that we only put a 3-foot on top of the 3-foot retaining wall, then that's what we'll do.
Okay.
That's not what if I could just add, that's not what I've said. I said the west side along 20th Avenue, the long yellow line that runs north-south or up and down. That is right next to a sidewalk. And I would just ask you, if in your neighborhood, if you were walking along a sidewalk in your neighborhood and next to you is a 10-foot wall,
Miss Wiley,
how would that feel? So that's what they want to put, is a 10-foot wall there. And if they feel they need that, we would ask that they put in native plants to make a hedge rather than a 10-foot wall.
Okay, one moment, please, to the applicant.
So
How
the-
is that wall?
So the area in yellow
Yes, sir.
along 20th Avenue,
Yes, sir.
it's a 3-foot retaining wall with a 5-foot decorative aluminum picket It's not solid along the road. We only put the wood fence next to the neighbors. We put the decorative aluminum that you can see through along the road. So it would be a 3-foot retaining wall with a 5-foot decorative aluminum picket on top. And of course, we always use hedges when we put in fences. We don't put in bare fences with no hedges.
Do you have a picture of that aluminum fencing?
Do we have one, Dana?
Yes, I have, yes. I could show you the street elevation along 20th, and then I could also show you the detail. So if you could see right here, that is the aluminum decorative fence along Southwest 20th.
So the white part would be the retaining wall, and then the like little stripe, I guess it's what, like black and green striping, that's the picket aluminum fence on top.
And with landscaping.
Right.
Is that your only picture?
Do we have a picture of the actual fence
Yeah,
material?
I could show you the actual detail from the site plan.
Here we go.
That's it. So this is what was approved with the site plan back in March of 2018. This
Okay.
is, which was with that approval. So you could see the picket fence detail there. So that's
Yeah.
what you see along 20th, and it has landscape in between.
Okay. I see. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Does that look good, Ms. Wiley? Is that better than what you thought when it was?
Well, I think all of us could maybe agree that if that was a solid 10-foot tall fence walking along a sidewalk, that wouldn't feel very neighborly.
No.
But seeing that this is a see-through fence, I think that makes it much less overwhelming to the neighbors that are outside.
Good. And they said that they will have some planting, some landscape
Yeah,
shrubbery.
it provides safety if that's what they need and separation, but it's not a wall. So,
Good.
yeah, that's a good clarification. Thank you.
Good. Is there any other members of the public that have anything to say on that item? Okay. Seeing none, I close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and a vote.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir. Mr. McGinley.
I'd like to make a motion to approve variance request PLN BOA 200900005.
I'll second the motion.
And that's with the finding that it meets the criteria.
That they have met the requirements for variance.
Now, are we going to lower that one portion? Didn't we decide that on the fixed part that faces down?
That would be fine with us.
Okay, so that just that one face, that one portion facing to the south. Mr. Spence, do you have something? Let's figure out the best way. It's
How do we convey that change?
it's the one portion
We'll
that
just add it
is,
to your motion, but we need to have the specific measurement on the record.
3-foot wall and a 3-foot, it meet code. It'll be 6 foot. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ford.
So maybe just the
For the
portions that
dimension.
don't.
Just that portion that faces south. Yes, we're
Well, I don't even have to identify it. All I have to identify are the portions that don't currently meet code.
fine. If you'd like to do it that way, if that works for,
Would, Dwayne, do you think that would be up?
Let's make sure they get this right.
whichever's easier.
So let me get clarification from the applicant. So the southern fence is what is the current request for this southern fence portion that we're discussing, reducing? And so,
Sorry.
Apologies, I didn't realize the mic was
If
on.
it's possible to identify that particular location, I think all we're saying is for that particular location, we will not need a variance. We will install-
okay, so we're removing that from the approval.
You could remove that from the request if you would like. I know you wanted to identify the exact spot.
Yeah, one moment. We have a comment from Mr. Ford, the zoning chief, or would like to speak, Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah, that was my comment, that we need, for purposes for us to implement, we need an exact measurements, or which side. If you're saying south I just want to make sure the south side over here, this is the whole south side, it has to be, there is no variance.
I can't hear you, Mr. Mohammed. You have to speak right into the mic, please.
The whole south side of the fence, basically, there is no variance to that, so that has to comply with 6 foot 6 inches, and it's a wood fence. So it's
Right,
going to be
so-
basically, if it's a 3 foot base, the fence would be 3 foot 6 inches high.
Correct.
On the request, what I see here is on the south and adjoining the west side, the applicant has proposed a
Yes.
6 foot wood fence with a total of 500 linear feet. That is, we're removing that from the request.
Okay.
It's going to be reduced.
So if it meets the code, then you don't need it.
Right.
If it meets the code, you
Initially,
don't need it.
right. Correct. Initially, I thought that we did, and that's why I had included it.
So-
But
I
in,
think we're,
so it's just the southern property line, that one little leg where the 7 lots are, along the 7 lots. That's where we would need the variance. So that we're saying that we're willing to comply with the code there and reduce the height of the fence along the southern.
Right.
so the western fence extending north from Southwest Fifth Place to the perpendicular southern 6 foot wood fence, that is the portion that's going to be excluded. If I'm understanding you correctly.
That western property line there, that we don't need, it ended up that we don't need the variance there. So that could be eliminated. And then the southern property line, so that little 7 leg there.
That whole thing
Uh,
will be
that-
all to code.
Yes,
6
that
foot.
could be
6
eliminated.
That's correct.
Correct.
So
Yes.
I'm describing, I'm annotating that
Okay, good.
circled in red.
Right.
is What I just described coming from Southwest Fifth Place North.
Yep,
That is no longer a part of the request, is what we're saying.
that's correct.
Yep. The whole L.
And
The
then,
whole L.
And what about,
Whole L is going to meet code now.
I see you
Let's
starting to
clarify.
circle the next
This
part.
This portion is also,
Yes.
That's correct. The 2 things you've circled can be removed from the variance request.
okay.
Satisfactory, Mr. Spence?
So it's a,
But how do we quantify? That's tricky.
Yeah, no, we were all.
oh, so it's the portion of the fence extending on the west side of the property from Southwest Fifth Place north to a perpendicular extension of the fence to Southwest 20th Avenue. And you don't have to repeat that.
I
We'll
was
put
about to say,
that.
I'm never gonna be able to. repeat.
I think Bridget may have it, or she'll have it, but,
I have it.
okay.
So can I make a motion to approve the amended variance request as conveyed?
You can make a
So-
motion to approve the variance request excluding the
Ex-
portion of the
Excluding
fence
the
ex- on
portion
record.
of the, excluding the portion of the fence as stated on record.
Yes,
As stated what?
on the record.
On the record.
Thank you.
Holy smokes, I second.
Okay. Mr. McGinley, are you going to restate it? Okay, Mr. McGinley will restate the motion.
Thank you.
Wait,
I
no,
would like to-
just,
Gosh darn, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as. Oh, shit. Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as amended on record.
Finding that it meets the criteria.
Yeah, finding that it meets the criteria of the variance request.
very good. Was there a second?
Second.
Okay, a second, I believe that was. Okay, please call.
Okay. I am ready. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just really quickly, and just for Ms. Wiley, the decorative portion above the retaining wall, that's the 5-foot aluminum fence. There is another section of the code that pertains that does allow for decorative portions to go about 2 feet above the actual the 6 feet. And so because it's decorative in nature, this would actually still fall technically potentially without a variance, but I'm just gonna say, let's go ahead and pass the variance. But I just wanted you to know that, Ms. Wiley, that, because of the way the code reads, they probably could go without this variance even still. They have to come.
Is that Mr. Maxey speaking?
Yes.
Mr. Burt, you're saying no? Okay. All right.
Okay. Please call the vote.
Just for the record, was that Mr. Maxey?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Ellis.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Maxey,
Yes.
Mr. Falcon, I'm sorry, Ms. Eichner,
Yes.
Mr. Lambrecht,
Yes.
Chair McTeague.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry for the confusion.
It was hard describing. It's fine. Thank you. Okay, we'll call case number 3, which is number PLN-BOA-02110001. Disclosures, Mr. McGinley.
None.
Ms. Ellis? Ms. Ellis, do you have any disclosures? Come back. Mr. Villanueva, have you come back?
None.
Back.
Ms. Ellis had none.
None.
Yeah, Mr. Villanueva, none. Mr. Reynolds?
None.
Mr. Maxey?
None.
Ms. Eichner?
None.
And I have none. Mr. Lambricks, I believe you're out on this one. Okay, so the floor is yours when you're ready. Yes, sir. You'll state your name and address for the record, please. Yes, sir.
Board, I just want to make sure that he's been sworn in.
Thank you. Have you been sworn in, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Beach and anyone else here that would like to speak on this item?
Okay, please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. So again, my name is John Beach. I'm here with my wife, Nicole Beach. I wanted to thank the members of the board as well as city staff for being here tonight. And basically, we have a pretty quick presentation. Good. All right. So the case number is at the top, my name, my wife's name. And then basically we're here tonight with 2 requests. They're both from the same code section 47533, table of dimensional requirements for the RC 15 and RCS 15 districts. And we have 2 specific requests. The first of which is a reduction in our front yard setback to from 25 feet required to 24.85 feet, which is a total variance of 0.15 feet. And then the other is table of dimensional requirements, but we're asking for a reduced side yard setback from 5 feet to 3 feet, which is a total variance of 2 feet. All right, so we live at 1140 Northeast 16th Terrace. This is located east of 15th Avenue North and south of 13th Street. So off the map to the south is Sunrise Boulevard, and the neighborhood is called Lake Ridge. Let's see. And then here's a little bit more zoomed in, just kind of on the local area where our actual house is. We are, as you can see, 1 lot from the north corner of our block, which is 16th Terrace. And then that would be 12th Street that we're adjacent to. All right. So this is from the city records department. This is the original site plan from when the house was built in, I think, give or take 1952. And it's a little bit hard to read, but basically, if you look at this, you can see that the intention when they initially built the house was to provide 2 5-foot side yard setbacks as well as 25-foot front yard setback. Had they done that correctly, we would not be here today having this conversation. So what I actually have is this survey from October of 2020. On the north side, we have a 3-foot existing side yard, and to the west, it is 24.85 feet. And so that's where the house is currently sited and where it's sat basically for 70 years, give or take. And please also note that on the south side, there's a 7.5-foot side yard. So we do actually have a combined side yard of 10, just over 10 feet, 10.5 feet. Unfortunately, though, the house, for whatever reason, is not quite centered on the lot. And so that creates a difficulty for us trying to enclose the carport. And let's see. So here are some pictures. This is our house, 1140 Northeast 16th Terrace. We bought this house 4 years ago, December of 16, that would be. And since we bought the house, we've done a lot of kind of, some repairs, some major kind of renovations like driveway, fence and stuff like that. But then a lot of smaller stuff that was like, just painting, landscaping, kind of trying to clean the place up and really try to be an asset to the neighborhood rather than kind of the ugly house on like the ugly kid on the block. Right. And so I think, I think that I can say honestly, like we've really done a good job of cleaning up the house and providing a better streetscape for our neighbors in the process of doing that. And two, if you're looking at the photograph to the left that is the yard that is in question. It's only a 3-foot side yard there. And then it's to the neighbors is another 5 feet. So here is how it looks when the cars are in the driveway, as well as when my neighbor has his truck in the driveway. This is the neighbor to my south. He's lived here for 20 years. This is kind of how his property looks and how the property line between my house and his house looks. This is across the street. So the picture let's start with the picture on the right. That's directly across the street. That's an apartment building. And then the picture on the left is kind of across the street and to the south. And that is one of the neighbors that I have over there. And so basically what I want to go back and say is this gentleman here to my north has provided me with a letter of support, which I've included in this presentation. This gentleman to the south, who's lived here for more than 20 years, has provided me with a letter of support, which I've included in this presentation. And then across the street, this gentleman who's also lived in the neighborhood for more than 20 years has also provided a letter of support. And also his neighbor to the south has also provided a letter of support. And those are the 4 closest kind of long-term residents of my immediate vicinity. And they're all homeowners for a long time. And so basically the proposed plan would be to enclose the carport. We would use 2/3 of that space as garage space. It won't fit a car, obviously, but we just kind of need the additional storage. And so from the street, you would just have the kind of flush panel roll-up garage door. And then with a little bit of space that we gained, we would be able to put like a proper laundry room, utility room, and I would be able to add like basically a 3/4 bath. And so that's the whole reason for my presentation here today. And then again, I have letters of support from 4 of my neighbors. And I think it's important to note a few things. One is that we have a total of 10 feet of side yard still, and we don't plan on really changing that in the future. And then there's going to be no change to the existing footprint or lot coverage as well. And essentially, we're going from what is existing a 2-1 with 1,008 square feet of conditioned space to a 2-2 with 1,121 square feet of conditioned space. So all in all, it's not a tremendous change to kind of the nature of the residence. That's all. That's the completion of my request. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any members of the board that have questions for the applicant at this time?
I don't have this is Blaise McGinley. I don't have a question per se. I would just definitely recommend that you do a building code review before you get too far down with your design. Because if I'm not mistaken, having a window within 3 feet of your property line, I seem to remember you may need further separation for fire. That's a building code, not a zoning issue.
Mr. Ford, do you have
Without looking up the code, I think 3 foot is the minimum.
Is the minimum? I would have bet it was 5. I would have lost some money on that bet.
But again, if you want, I can look up the code.
No, because that's not what he's,
Okay.
that's not what he's asking for approval here today. I'm just making sure that he can follow through on what it is that he's trying to accomplish. And then by not raising that floor in the proposed storage and shop area, you won't be able to use that as a bedroom or anything like that. It will need to remain.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the intent here is to basically have a little bit of storage where we can get like the lawnmower and the weed eaters and all that stuff out from the weather.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant at this time? Okay, seeing none, I open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? I don't see any. Are there any members raising their hands or anything? Okay. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and a vote.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of having built structures so close to the property line. But but he has his neighbors, letter of support, and as long as the building is built with it to code, I don't have a specific issue with it.
Yeah, we're talking about a less than a half a foot on the front side. The
I'm talking about the
side
side.
setback was already
Yeah, this was
at
done
3 feet.
so long ago. It's not
yeah.
anything. My thought is that
I don't
nothing
think-
that he's done or anyone has done.
Right.
And I
decades.
The hardship was already there before.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. Any other members have any thoughts or make a motion?
Make me do it.
They're leaving you hanging.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve case number PLN BOA 20110001. I'd like to approve the variance based that they have met the requirements.
A second.
Second by Mr. Maxon. If you'll call the vote, please.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Reynolds,
Did he?
Mr. Reynolds,
Mr.
you're
Reynolds.
still mute. Mr.
Yes.
Reynolds, there you go. Thank you. Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Maxey,
Yes.
Ms. Eichner,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Villeneuve,
Yes.
Chair McTeague.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
No profanity that time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, case number PLN-BOA-20110003. Disclosures.
I spoke to council.
Okay, Ms. Ellis. There we go. All right, Mr. McGinley,
Blaze McGinley, I spoke to council.
Mr. Villanueva.
Is this the alcohol special exception?
Yes.
I spoke to council.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds,
None.
Mr. Maxey,
I spoke to applicant's counsel.
Ms. Eichner,
I spoke to the applicant's counsel.
and I also had a phone conversation with applicant's counsel. We'll turn it over to applicant's counsel now for the presentation.
Do I need to swear anybody in for this one?
Just me.
Yep.
Oh, hi.
Mr.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Crush.
Thank you. Jason Crush with Crush Law on behalf of the applicant, Ruach Incorporated, which is the property owner, and the tenant, which is Pita Express and Mediterranean Grill Concept. As always, I have a quick presentation. Let me see if I can share. The property is located at 3558 North Ocean Boulevard. It's along the Gulf Ocean Mile area, just north of the North Beach Shops, which you guys are surely all familiar with. Just south of 36th Street and right on the corner above the Pita Express was where the Bank Atlantic used to be. It's a different bank now, I'm not sure which. The property is located kind of mid-block to the north of this block. It was a previous restaurant that was operated by the synagogue, who is actually the property owner here, and the synagogue and or the Shabbat and the preschool that we failed the liquor measurement to. The current tenant, Pita Express, is doing some flooring and repainting and such, but we'll leave the rest of the interior essentially as it's existed for years. You can see there, this is a street view of the Cafe Amanua, which was there previously, was kind of a sushi restaurant. And then you have the bank to the north and more properties and the Shabbat to the south. The Pita Express does have a full menu. It is a restaurant that will be licensed by the Division of Hotels and Restaurants and receive a business tax from the city of Fort Lauderdale as a restaurant. Interesting, combination of Mediterranean grill that we all expect. And I'm very happy to say that we are seeing more and more restaurants that are looking to open next year, which is shocking in the era of COVID, but I think everybody's looking towards the future and how they're going to survive. So as you all know, the city's ordinance section 5-27 requires a 500-foot distance separation from a church or school for anywhere that serves alcoholic beverages. Pita Express restaurant is located 3 different properties, and I'll enumerate these a little bit in a minute, but it's 71 feet from the Chabad proper, from 136 feet from another of their properties, and 243 feet from the Shalom preschool, which is operated by the Chabad. You'll see here that the green labeled there as Pita Express. The other yellow outlines are all of the Chabad's properties. And here is the measurements to the first property, 71 feet, 136 feet, to which the code says to the nearest church corner that's used for church properties, or in this case, synagogue. So it is 243 feet down to the preschool, which is where you can see in the yellow here, there's kind of an outside tent there. The Board of Adjustment is authorized under 5-27B to grant special exceptions for accessory sale of alcoholic beverages in a bona fide restaurant such as this, where the board finds that the special exception will not be contrary to the public interest. We put forth and do not believe that this will be contrary to the public interest, as this is ancillary to the primary service of food. That there are many uses on this commercial corridor that serve alcoholic beverages. There are restaurants to the north up to the city line, up to Lauderdale by the Sea, which serve alcoholic beverages. There are many restaurants to the south in the North Beach Shops area, and where Boat Campers is located, and Boardroom, and all the bars and restaurants down there. Almost all of those sell alcoholic beverages. The Chabad actually is in full support of this, as it is owned by them, and I think intended that a lot of their membership will use this after services as a place to go and eat. And we actually have a letter of support from Rabbi Lipsitz, because as the rabbi of the Chabad and also as the managing member of Ruach Incorporated, which is the property owner. With that, I would entertain any questions, and I respectfully request that you grant this special exception.
Thank you. Are there any members of the board that have questions for the applicant? Okay. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Yes, please. Feel free to pull the microphone down a little so that.
Board, before with the city, just want to make sure that the speaker's been sworn in.
Yes. Please state your name and then we'll confirm that. Have you been sworn in?
I have not been sworn in.
So we'll swear you in.
My name is Heather Gilchrist. My parents own the property adjacent to this request.
Okay, Bridget, if you could swear her in, please.
Yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And could you spell your name for me, please?
Sure, it's Heather, Heather,
Mhm.
Gilchrist, Gilchrist.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gilchrist. The floor is yours.
So I'm speaking on behalf of my parents. They own the property adjacent 3562 North Ocean. They actually sold the property that this business is on to the rabbi years ago. Their concern really isn't necessarily with the preschools or anything. They run a private security and data business, and they have clients coming in at all hours, sometimes with police escorts. We have a problem with parking already. We're very concerned that granting a liquor license would cause more of a parking problem. When the city just recently rezoned the parking out front, we actually lost a parking space, and we have, my parents have jeweler clients who come in to and from trade shows at all hours of the night with armed escorts and police escorts. And we've had clients at the restaurant tell my parents, or actually tell the police officers, to F off when they ask them to move out of our spots. So it's not the restaurant. The issue is really just a concern for the safety of our clients, and specifically with regard to access to our parking spaces.
Any members of the board have any comments on that? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this item? I don't see any online or anything. Seeing none, I close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and a vote. Mr. Maxey.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to see if we can get with the applicant's counsel to get back with the applicant. Just, there's other ways to clearly demarcate parking and other issues. That's not unfortunately what's in front of this board, but would you just ask that you take that back as we consider
Absolutely.
this and make this decision? So
Absolutely. I will communicate with my client.
Any other members of the board that have anything or a motion?
Yeah, no, so this is Carrie, and I just want to comment because, we did have a member of the public come in and speak, and I don't want to give the impression that their concerns were not heard, but I agree with Mr. Maxey that for the criteria for this specific decision, parking isn't really something that I think really would weigh into this specific thing in front of us. So I don't want it to seem like we aren't listening, but just, we have a very narrow criteria, very narrow task here as to what we're supposed to consider.
Appreciate the clarification. Okay. Are there any members of the board that have a motion or any more discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special exception as they have met the minimum requirements. And that would be case number BLN BOA 20110003.
Is there a
I
second?
would second that motion.
Ms. Ellis? Okay, please call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Maxey,
yes.
Ms. Eichner,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Villeneuve,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Chair McTeague.
Yes.
Thank you. That is approved.
Thank you all, and it's good to see you all again. I hope that sometime in 2021 we'll see each other in person. And I will communicate with with my client and talk to him about the next door neighbor.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you. Is there a communication, anything to communicate to the city commission?
I just want to check with our council. I mean, we do have something with the commission regarding this adjacent property with the fencing. This is clearly going to become an issue as we raise more properties to address sea level rise. And so considering that, is that something that is being brought to the attention of the commission to help us adjudicate? Because these are very challenging when you think about how many properties in the near future are going to continue to do this. We need kind of a better, interpretation of the code, I think, based on doing things to satisfy the county and the state's sea level rise requirements, right? And so I just want to make sure that that's at the board right now, or the commission.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I believe that communication has already been sent through the department, and they're looking at those ordinances accordingly. Is that not correct, Malik?
Yeah, Mr. Malik, do you have something?
Yes, and I think last time we said we came back to you, and our deputy director Al said we are looking into it.
So it's being
No,
reviewed.
that's all. I just wanted to make
Sure,
sure.
you were just following up.
Following up.
I was
Thank you.
going to do the same. So great. We appreciate that. And it'll be ever more apparent that we need to get ahead of it. Okay. So there was nothing, I believe, for the communication to the city commission. Is there anything for the good of the city? Seeing nothing, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. All right. Thank you, everybody.